I've been watching Trump for years, his rallies, his interviews, his courtroom appearances. And for the first time, I saw something shift. It was subtle, almost easy to miss. But if you were really paying attention, you'd have caught it too. Trump, the master of bravado and certainty, hinted at something he's never dared to admit before, that his own movement, the MAGA movement, is cracking. I never thought I'd hear him even flirt with the idea that his base, the one that chants his name, that floods stadiums in red hats, could be divided. But there it was. A brief moment of honesty wrapped in his usual bluster. He said it in passing, as if it didn't matter, but the weight of it was massive. There's a split in the Republican Party, and not just any split. This one is deep, ideological, and personal. You can feel it when you talk to MAGA supporters now. Some still worship Trump like he's the second coming of Reagan. Others are getting restless. They still want to drain the swamp. But they're not so sure anymore that Trump is the one holding the plunger. They see the legal chaos, the constant drama, and they're starting to ask questions, not always out loud, but in private, behind closed doors. And that silence, that hesitation, it's deafening. The division became even more obvious when Trump started hedging his comments about Vladimir Putin. Remember the days when he openly admired Putin's strength, when he'd scoff at the idea that Russia was America's enemy? Well, that admiration hasn't vanished entirely, but it's more cautious now, because he knows a big portion of his base has turned hardline against anything remotely pro-Russia, especially after Ukraine became a rallying cry for global democracy. Meanwhile, the far-right fringes of MAGA still see Putin as a warrior against global liberalism, and they don't care about Ukraine one bit. That's the split. And Trump is walking a tightrope, trying not to alienate either side. The same thing happened with Gaza. Trump used to be able to count on unified MAGA support when it came to foreign policy, strong defense, unwavering support for Israel, no nonsense. But the Gaza conflict changed everything. Younger conservatives, particularly online, are questioning the billions of dollars going to Israel. They're asking why America keeps entangling itself in foreign wars while cities like Detroit and Baltimore crumble. And when Trump speaks on Israel now, there's hesitation. He knows whatever he says, someone on his own team will be angry. That's the thing people aren't talking about enough. The MAGA movement is no longer just about Trump. It's become a fragmented echo chamber of influencers, conspiracy theorists, moderates, and populists, all fighting to be the loudest voice in the room. And when you mix in the scandals like the classified documents case, it becomes combustible. I mean, think about it. The man is facing serious charges over the mishandling of top secret government files. A few years ago, even hinting at this level of controversy would have been political suicide. But Trump isn't just surviving, he's still leading in some polls. And yet the cracks are there. You can see it in the eyes of the Republican lawmakers who refuse to comment. You can feel it in the awkward silence from former allies who used to short his name from rooftops. Some of them are sticking by him no matter what, almost out of loyalty or fear. But others, they're calculating their exit strategy. And Trump knows it. That's why he's different now. There's a weight on him. He's trying to keep this movement together, to convince everyone he's still the chosen one, even as the ground shifts beneath his feet. His speeches have become more defensive, more erratic. One moment, he's praising himself as the greatest president ever. The next, he's rambling about light bulbs or windmills. It's not just entertainment anymore. It's strategy. He's trying to distract from the very real possibility that MAGA is no longer one solid army, but a scattered militia of ideology and ego. What happens next? That's the question no one can answer with certainty. Will the movement find a new leader? Will Trump reinvent himself one more time? Or will the Republican Party finally hit its breaking point? All I know is this: when Trump, of all people, starts to hint at division, it means the split isn't just coming, it's already here. And maybe that's the most dangerous part. Because fractured movements are unpredictable. They can birth something more extreme, more unhinged, or they can collapse altogether. But they never go quietly. Trump built a political empire on grievance and spectacle. Now, that empire is showing cracks. And if history tells us anything, it's that empires rarely fall without a fight. So when I heard Trump admit, even vaguely, that there's a divide, I didn't take it lightly. That was the sound of a man who knows he's losing grip. And whether you love him or loathe him, one thing is clear: MAGA isn't what it used to be. And the person who built it might just be the one who watches it unravel. I used to think the MAGA movement spoke with one voice. Strong borders, America first, no foreign entanglements. That was the script. But lately something's changed. The issue of Ukraine, and more specifically Putin, has exposed deep cracks in that unity. It's no longer a monolithic voice, it's a shouting match. And at the center of it all is a question Trump never thought he'd have to answer. Whose side are we really on? It used to be simple. If you were MAGA, you admired strength, and Vladimir Putin, he was the strongman archetype. Cold, calculating, unapologetically nationalistic. Trump loved that. He praised it openly, called him smart, said he was a great leader. MAGA supporters echoed that sentiment. They saw Putin as a leader who didn't bow to political correctness, who made decisions without waiting for global approval. In their eyes, he represented the kind of iron-willed authority they wanted in the US, but when Russia invaded Ukraine, everything shifted. Suddenly, this wasn't just about admiration from afar. It was real war with real consequences and real innocent lives being lost. And that's when the MAGA crowd started to split, because for some, it became impossible to defend Putin without looking like you were excusing violence. For others, the old admiration persisted. They saw Ukraine as a corrupt puppet of global elites and viewed Putin as someone finally standing up to NATO and the Western order. Trump has been caught in the middle of this ideological tug of war. In the early days of the invasion, he still couldn't resist complimenting Putin's genius moves. But the backlash, even from within his own base, was immediate. Some MAGA influencers were furious. Others quietly distanced themselves. The message was clear. Saying nice things about a man launching missiles at civilians wasn't going to fly anymore, not even with the MAGA faithful. And yet, not everyone broke with the old script. A loud, determined wing of the movement doubled down. They framed the Ukraine war as just another foreign entanglement America had no business getting involved in. They blamed the US for provoking Russia. They said Biden's support for Ukraine was part of some deep state plan to enrich military contractors. And in this narrative, Putin wasn't the villain, he was the victim of Western aggression. It was wild to watch. Two factions, same movement, completely at odds. One side is waving the Ukrainian flag, urging restraint and calling out Putin's atrocities. The other side sees Zelensky as a Western puppet and Putin as a misunderstood anti-globalist hero. And stuck in the middle is Trump, trying to keep both camps on his side. He wants to stay tough, but not too tough. He wants to be anti-war, but still pro-strength, so he dances, he dodges. He talks about how this never would have happened if I were president, without ever truly saying what he thinks of Putin now. You can see the discomfort. In interviews, his answers about the war are more hesitant, more calculated. That confidence he had when talking about Russia in 2016, it's gone. Now, it's about not alienating the crowd that still sees Putin as a counterbalance to globalism, while also not losing the voters who've come to see Ukraine as a symbol of democracy under siege. This division is more than just politics, it's a test of MAGA's identity. Because Ukraine has become more than a country, it's a litmus test. Do you believe America should lead the world, defend allies, and push back against tyranny? Or do you believe we should mind our own business, shut off the borders, and stop playing world police, even if it means turning a blind eye to war crimes? These are two fundamentally different worldviews, and Trump is trying to please both. It's not working. You see it in comment sections, on podcasts, in conservative forums. The once united voice of MAGA has turned into civil war chatter. Accusations fly. You're a neocon. You're a Putin shill. You care more about Ukraine than Ohio. I've watched longtime allies turn on each other over this. People who stood shoulder to shoulder at rallies now block each other on Twitter over who's right about the war. It's that divisive. And in that chaos, Trump's usual strategy, say a bit of everything, be everything to everyone, is starting to backfire. Because the truth is, the world has changed since 2016. The threats are different, the stakes are higher, and the MAGA movement can't seem to decide who the enemy really is anymore. Is it China? Is it the deep state? Is it Russia, NATO, the media, Democrats? The list keeps shifting, and Ukraine just added fuel to the fire. What's clear is that the split isn't going away, it's deepening. Every Ukrainian airstrike, every American aid package, every new video of Russian brutality reignites the debate. And with the next election approaching, Trump will be forced to pick a side eventually. He can't walk the tightrope forever. The MAGA movement once prided itself on clarity. America first, no compromise. But now, on perhaps the biggest global conflict of the decade, it's split down the middle. And the man who created the movement is no longer leading it. He's chasing it, trying to catch up, trying to avoid being swallowed by the very forces he unleashed. So when I see Trump hesitate, When I see him avoid naming names or taking a firm stance on Ukraine, I get it. Because he knows the split is real. And if he chooses wrong, even for a moment, the movement that built him could be the same one that breaks him. I never thought Gaza would be the thing to unravel the MAGA narrative, but here we are. For years, the movement was all about strength, loyalty, and clarity. You knew where MAGA stood, especially when it came to Israel. Support for the Jewish state wasn't just a policy, it was a core belief. Trump moved the US embassy to Jerusalem and became a hero for it. The MAGA base cheered like it was a touchdown, but then Gaza exploded again, and suddenly all that clarity, it vanished. This conflict didn't just reignite old tensions in the Middle East. It exposed a strange, uncomfortable truth inside the MAGA movement. They don't all agree anymore. Not on war, not on religion, not even on who the good guys are. The Gaza conflict forced them to pick sides in a fight that doesn't offer clean answers. And that's where the contradictions began. The loudest MAGA voices used to chant America first, while simultaneously pledging unwavering support for Israel. But this time, some of those same voices are asking, why are we sending billions overseas while American cities rot? Why is Congress united on foreign aid for Israel when they can't agree on fixing healthcare or the southern border? These aren't fringe questions anymore. They're being asked by people who used to blindly follow the party line. And Trump, he's caught in the middle. The man who once called himself the most pro-Israel president in history now finds himself surrounded by followers who are questioning that loyalty. He still says the right things, condemns Hamas, pledges support. But the cheers aren't as loud anymore. There's hesitation. There's doubt. Because for some in his base, this isn't about Israel vs Hamas. It's about America vs endless foreign entanglements. Again, it's a strange twist. The same crowd that once praised Israeli military strength is now posting videos calling Gaza an open-air prison. Influencers who built their brands defending Trump's foreign policy are now accusing him of siding with the wrong people. And the worst part, they're not completely wrong, because the situation is messy. Civilians are dying, children are caught in the crossfire, and moral clarity is hard to find when bombs fall on apartment buildings. You can see the discomfort when MAGA supporters try to talk about it. Some go silent, others double down. A few suddenly discover nuance. An odd turn for a movement that's built on black and white thinking. The contradictions are everywhere. They say they want peace, but they justify airstrikes. They say they care about innocent life, but mock refugee suffering. It's all starting to crack under the weight of its own inconsistency. And then there's the religious angle. Evangelicals, a key piece of the MAGA coalition, have always supported Israel for biblical reasons. To them, Israel isn't just a country, it's prophecy. But younger conservatives don't necessarily share that view. They weren't raised on that theology. To them, Gaza looks like another endless war, and Israel is just another foreign power with tanks and drones. That generational gap, it's widening fast. Even within the Trump family, you can feel the unease. Jared Kushner, the architect of the Abraham Accords, still praises Israeli leadership. But others in Trump's orbit are quieter now. They see the backlash online. They see the protest signs. They know this isn't 2016 anymore. And let's not forget the media circus. Right-wing outlets are split. Some go full defense mode. Blame Hamas, defend Israel, dismiss criticism. Others, especially online independents, are breaking ranks. They're showing footage of Palestinian suffering. They're asking tough questions. And Trump can't control it. The ecosystem he helped create. The influencers, the pundits, the platforms, it's grown beyond him. And now it's feeding on contradiction. I've seen longtime MAGA supporters argue online, block each other, even accuse one another of being traitors, all over Gaza. One side cries terrorism, the other cries genocide. And in between there's Trump, still trying to hold it all together with slogans and sound bites that just don't land the same way anymore. Because here's the hard true thing, Gaza revealed what MAGA never wanted to admit, that for all its talk of unity and strength, it's just as fractured as the rest of the country. That even Trump, the great unifier of the angry right, can't control a narrative when the moral lines are this blurry. The movement that prided itself on having all the answers is now drowning in questions it never prepared for. Where does it go from here? That's the question nobody can answer. Will the MAGA movement realign around a clearer stance? Or will it keep fracturing, splitting into pro-Israel, anti-war, isolationist, and even anti-Zionist factions that can't agree on the basics? What we do know is that Trump is no longer leading the narrative. He's reacting to it. And for a man who built his image on dominance, That's not a good look. Gaza didn't just challenge foreign policy, it exposed the soul of a movement. It showed us that the MAGA machine, once so loud and certain, is now filled with static, confused, divided, contradictory, and maybe beginning to lose its grip. When the news first broke about the FBI raiding Mar-a-Lago, I didn't flinch. I thought it was just another witch hunt. That's what we'd been told, right? For years, the narrative had been the same: the deep state is out to get Trump. So when the headlines screamed classified documents, it felt like just another media ambush, another attempt to take him down before 2024. But this time something felt different. This time, even some of Trump's most loyal followers hesitated. We're not talking about a tweet or a phone call here. We're talking about boxes of classified government files, reportedly containing sensitive national security material, nuclear details, foreign intel, God knows what else, stashed away in a Florida beach resort. And for the first time, you could see it in the faces of some MAGA die-hards doubt, not full-blown betrayal. Not yet. But that tiny seed of wait, why? Trump, of course, did what he always does. He doubled down. He said the documents were declassified, like it was that simple. No paperwork, no formal process. Just a verbal declaration, poof, magically declassified. But anyone who's ever worked near classified material knows it doesn't work like that. There's a system, a chain of custody, a procedure. You can't just throw top secret files next to golf trophies and think that's fine. And while Trump's base rallied online, it's a setup. It's Biden's dodge. Something started to shift. I noticed it in conversations, in comment sections, in podcasts. People weren't as loud this time. Some influencers who usually defend Trump with fire and fury went quiet. Others started saying things like, even if he did nothing illegal, why was he keeping those files at all? That's the part Trump can't spin away. Not really, because even if you believe the case is politically motivated, and sure, politics are always in the mix, you still have to answer the basic question: why did he take them? Why did he keep them? And why did he refuse to give them back when asked multiple times by the National Archives and the FBI? This isn't about red or blue. This is about power, control, ego. And Trump's greatest strength has always been making people feel like he's the victim of an elite system. But in this case, he wasn't being persecuted for words or ideas. He was hoarding files that didn't belong to him. Period. It added a new kind of pressure, not just legally, but politically. Because now his rivals within the GOP had something tangible, something they could point to and say, look, he's too reckless, too chaotic. We can't afford another 4 years of this circus. And while most of them won't say that out loud yet, you can feel the calculation happening. DeSantis, Haley, even people like Vivek, each one is watching closely, waiting for the moment the base starts to turn. And that base, it's split. Some will ride or die with Trump no matter what. He could burn the Constitution on live TV and they'd still call it 4D chess. But others, they're exhausted, not because they've stopped liking him, but because they've started asking if it's worth it. Every day it's another scandal, another indictment, another fight. They want the policies, the wins, the America first attitude. But they're wondering if they need a different face to carry the message now. The classified documents case made that feeling impossible to ignore. It wasn't just about Trump vs. Biden anymore. It was Trump vs. reality. You can't just say fake news when there are photographs, audio recordings, sworn affidavits. The special counsel has witnesses. He has tape. He has people who worked for Trump saying he showed classified information to guests, waving it around like a party trick. That's not a smear campaign. That's a national security problem. But Trump won't back down. That's not who he is. He thrives on confrontation, on being the target. And in a strange way, he's using this case the same way he used impeachment as fuel. Every indictment becomes a badge of honor. Every court date becomes a rally cry. If they can do this to me, they can do it to you, he says. And it works until it doesn't. And because there's only so long you can play the victim before people start asking what you're really running from. And that question, what is he hiding, is now hanging over everything. Every speech, every interview, every poll. It's the unspoken doubt gnawing at the edge of his base. He's tried to distract, of course. Blame Biden for his own classified file issues. Attack the DOJ. Claim it's all a ploy to derail his campaign. But even if all of that were true, it doesn't answer the most basic human-level question. What kind of person walks off with classified files and then refuses to give them back? The MAGA movement was built on strength, order, and America First values. But how do you reconcile that with recklessness, with secrecy, with a leader who seems more interested in protecting himself than the country. The documents case didn't just create legal pressure. It created moral pressure, political pressure. It forced people to ask if the movement had outgrown the man who started it. And the more Trump rages, the more those quiet questions grow louder in the minds of people who once never doubted him. The storm isn't just around him. It's inside his base now. And if that base starts to fracture, it won't be the media or the Democrats or the DOJ that ends Trump's run. It'll be his own people finally deciding that loyalty has a limit.